So for every challenge in cybersecurity, you have been buying technologies to obviously address those challenges. But obviously, as your environment grows, you actually find yourself actually having a lot of siloed solutions from different vendors. So the industry right now is obviously reacting to that by trying to actually consolidate the technologies so that it actually reduces the complexity that is actually associated with running some of these siloed solutions. So this is what Checkpoint will be covering today. And I would like obviously to give this opportunity now to Dennis to obviously take us through the presentation for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, TT. I'm just going to share my screen. Hey. Can you guys see my slides?
We can.
Right. Awesome. So thank you very much, Leticia, for arranging this webinar, and thank you very much, ProComm, for making it all happen. So my name is Dennis Keegan. I'm a lead security engineer for Checkpoint. I cover the African region. So basically, I move around, meet all our customers inside that region. And I've been working at Checkpoint for the last 6 years. So today we have a discussion, and basically based on the trends that we've seen with Tawengwa and ProComm team, and basically we're seeing a trend here, and the trend basically we being reactive based on the sort of attacks that we see across the board. So today we're going to talk about basically what we call Infinity on the Checkpoint side, which is a consolidated approach to security in terms of the way security is approached, solutions are designed, deployed, looking at technology, looking at people, looking at processes, and how all this come together in the back end where you're able to have a consolidated view, a consolidated way to react to security and also to be able to be proactive, not to be able to see. So the idea here is to be able to provide an architecture that secures the customers that we have across the board, or all organizations across the board. So we're talking about government organization, parastatals, private sector with BFSI, all the way to small and medium businesses. What we're trying to achieve is to be able to provide a way to secure our customers, but at the same time to be able to reduce the TCO. So here we're looking at increased protection, but also looking at reduced TCO in terms of the overall cost that comes when we're running all these solutions. So you're looking at the CapEx cost of the solutions, you're looking at the cost of maintaining the solution, looking at the manpower required. So they're all tied together in terms to reduce the TCO that we receive from that. Now, if you look at what we see, and we've seen this buzz term coming forward, where you're looking at a unified cybersecurity architecture. So the security architecture, also known as cybersecurity architecture or network security architecture, basically is defined in many ways by many people. So it's defined as a practice of defining computer systems to ensure the security of underlying data. So we're looking at all these parts that you have across the board, looking at your network, for example, looking at your users, looking at your data centers. Your data center could be on-premise, could be private cloud, could be public cloud. All these facets, we call them assets. So basically computer systems that all communicate together to deliver different services for our customers and for our customers' customers. And you're looking at a way where all these things are communicating to deliver a specific function, but at the same time, you're looking at a way to be able to secure all this estate that you have across the board. So while businesses can build simple network security systems, which has been the norm across the board, because when cybersecurity wasn't an issue, basically guys had cybersecurity products as a mean of compliance based on their regulatory forefathers, for example. So, but nowadays, it's no longer a matter of compliance, but basically it's a matter of necessity, because again, as you've seen before, a mere cybersecurity event can cripple a business. In some cases, even take a business to bankruptcy, if not look at altogether. So this is a necessity, and we're trying to move away from that. We are looking at simple network security systems independently. Many do not possess necessary technologies to effectively manage their cybersecurity risks. So an ideal security architecture should be flexible enough to adapt and provide security coverage for businesses despite the continuous evolving threat domain. So this is the main idea. So how are we able to develop an architecture, an ecosystem that can be as dynamic as the way cybersecurity realm is, because that's the case. So cybersecurity is one of the most dynamic fields out there, because threats changes every day. So software will come up today, software will be good, but tomorrow there'll be a bug being exploited on the wild. So how are we able to also have tools on our side that can be able to evolve in such a way, and also be as dynamic in near real time as what we're able to see when it comes to cybersecurity attack. So why is cybersecurity architecture important in this day and age? Now, so this is where the IT and cybersecurity architecture fuse in. So they all working together to provide you what is required. So cybersecurity that we see across the board. Sorry, I'm just going to go back with that. So cybersecurity, the way they work. So we have all these guys. So we have, in a typical organization, we have the head of infrastructure, who is responsible for all the infrastructure. Then we have the IT guys, maybe guys in network security, for example, guys in application side, guys in let's say endpoint side or the user side. They all basically responsible for basic small faucets within the whole infrastructure. Now, the idea of having a cybersecurity architecture is to be able to have all these architectures together and have a way that they fuse together, so that they're able to work together and provide warnings if required. Provide warnings that will tell you if indeed whatever architecture you're running on the back end. So looking at in simple IT terms, maybe across the OSI model, look at telltale signs, or what we call security gaps, and look for signs of any bad architecture. So this is why we have across the board, many organizations have come up with methodologies, architectures that can be implemented by different organizations, so that we have this sort of a synergy between cybersecurity architect, cybersecurity and IT, and in a nutshell, they all form part and parcel of a typical cybersecurity architecture. Now, any cybersecurity attack basically results in a breach. Now, in my own example here, we've seen across the board attacks across the board, and I've just picked stuff off the internet, but trust me, guys, the attack are more closer to home than has never been before. So actually, based on the research we have, we're looking at the attacks. For example, if you look at ransomware attacks, the number of attacks, or the proliferation of attacks, ransomware attacks in Africa, is basically above the global average. So if you look at the attacks happening in Europe, US, Asia, and if you compare them vis-a-vis what we have in Africa, the Africa is basically above the average. And the reason for that is the attackers are having a field day in Africa, because then they're able to, again, easily penetrate organizations, because, again, of our lack of preparedness, or us basically maintaining the status quo. But at the same time, they're able to achieve that objective. So this could be either, and the big one, this could be monetizing the whole process. So what we're trying to basically take our customers to see is to be able to be able to adapt a cybersecurity architecture that are able to bring guys on what they're able to see. Now, looking at the customers we have, I go to Botswana a lot. I go to Zambia. I go to Zimbabwe all this time, and we see customers really suffering. And these are big organizations. Some are government organizations that are basically handling very critical data. Some are banks, for example. So, and we're seeing all this happening across the board. And these things basically have repercussions on what can happen if any sort of attack that happens to the customer. So this is basically, that's what is happening. And now what we're trying to tell the customers is they don't need to suffer this sort of repercussions, because then we can have an approach that is able to prepare them to avert these sort of attacks going forward. Now, the challenges that comes with fragmented architecture, there are quite many, and all of our guys we can be able to see. So at a typical organization, for example, we'd have, let's say, up to 20 solutions are deployed within the organization that carry out specific stuff. So, for example, an organization will have a different perimeter security firewall. Then they'll have a different, let's say, data center firewall. They'll have a different web application firewall, for example. If you go to the user, they'll have a different antivirus. They'll have a different mobile security. They'll have a different MDM solution. If you go to the cloud, they have a different solution. So we have all these solutions from different vendors that basically the customers have purchased. And they're trying to make them work together, because again, your security is as good as the way it's deployed. Now, a typical organization will probably have, let's say, 2 or 3 in our part of the world, cybersecurity guys, and it's expected that these 3 people are supposed to learn all these technologies, right? Deploy them. So remember, all these technologies are basically built in from different code bases. So we expect them to be deployed, work together to provide security for the users. At the same time, we need to keep abreast. So we have like probably, let's say, 10 consoles that you need to manage. So talking about 3 guys. If you identify a security threat or event on one protocol, how does this translate to the other in a way that you're able to work that? So we're looking at manual process that leads to basically guessing on what a specific cybersecurity event will mean on another security solution that work differently on a different code base. So that's basically the problem we have right now. Now, what this has resulted in the number of threats that we've seen. So globally, based by Checkpoint research that was done late last year in 2022. So there's almost 40% increase in the successful attacks across the board. So this is in the world. And as I said before, again, by research, Africa would be more, because most of the attacks that we've seen, from phishing to ransomware attacks to DNS tunneling, Africa always has a huge figure, basically bigger than the global average. So we have all these attacks. Some malware that we've seen, they're what we call multifaceted attacks. So basically, one malware has tools in its arsenal to attack an organization through multiple attack vectors. So let's say, for example, if this malware, the user wanted maybe to spread it through phishing, and maybe if they try to go phishing, maybe on the email side, they find the user has a very robust email security. The same malware will try to probe in through other means. So maybe look at phishing on your mobile, for example, through, let's say, email, or through chatting application, for example, or through SMS, or phishing through that normal web browsing. So this is a typical solution. It has an end game, but it has arsenals to basically be able to attack you through multiple attack vectors. Now, each attack vector will approach a specific attack surface. And as I mentioned before, back in the day when compliance was the best thing, guys will just get a solution just to fill in on a compliance, because they want to comply with the industry regulator, or also with the audit that you have as part of their company. So with this, you might have a very, very good solution on the email side, but probably a subpar solution on your endpoint. And these solutions are, again, by different vendors. There's no backend methodology where this solution communicates or sends signals when it comes to attack. So basically, when one signature is applied to the other, so that if a specific attack was averted in this one, the process is automated where if this attack tries to look at another attack vector, the signature definition will already be there, and this attack will be blocked. So we don't have that. Now, this malware, the reason why they're successful is because they're multifaceted, and they'll probe multiple attack vectors, and most cases they'll find a way in, right? They'll find a way in, and they're able to get inside. And this is the problem that we have currently with these pinpoint solutions spread across the board. Now, complexity in cybersecurity tool sets, it's quite a challenge that we have across the board. And this is a challenge we have with many customers we have, right? So we have all these tool sets, all of them, they're quite good, but again, they rely on the effectiveness rely on how they're deployed, and also on how they're able to be dynamic and basically adapt the sort of cybersecurity threats we're able to see. Now, again, going back to what I mentioned in the last few minutes, if you look at a multifaceted attack, right? So this is a dynamic attack, a flexible attack that looks at any entry point. So how do we make sure that we also have a solution that is able to adapt to this sort of attack? And this is where the cybersecurity architecture comes in. Now, Gartner came up with what we call a cybersecurity mesh architecture, which I think right now is what most organizations use, and also based on my study, for example, and most of the guys we have in the team or in the security team that have a chance to look at the Gartner mesh technology, I would think the approach is quite good on how you're able to deploy and adapt the mesh cybersecurity architecture. Now, the mesh architecture, basically, for it to be deployed and to work as intended, it is as good as the technology that is being deployed. That's basically the point that we have here. So, as you can see on your screen, so the mesh depicts all security tools that should be deployed in place at any given time to protect assets that we have. So having disparate solutions, and that's basically what I've been telling you, toolset creates more complexity, right? And rightfully so. And this complexity basically means that there will be gaps most of the times. Now, the problem we have with this is we as security guys, we understand that basically we're supposed to be a business enabler and not a business inhibitor. So most of the times when we do what needs to be done, there's always a trade-off. Now, if we apply this security that we need to apply, chances are most of the times we'll need to forego some of a business process that most of the times will make a business more ineffective. And this is the problem we have when you look at with disparate solutions. So in most cases, we'll have the solution, but we won't deploy the way it's supposed to because, again, of how complex it is. We talked about how being able to be dynamic and adapt to sort of cybersecurity architecture so that we can be able to maintain the business that we're supposed to. But what we're doing in a nutshell is basically we are opening up the business to any sort of attack that may come with that. Now, without a solid security architecture, this complexity can lead to gaps in security posture. That's basically the bottom line. And now having all these products, we need to be able to have a proper architecture that is not really reliant on processes only, because that only takes you so far, but also the technology that enables these solutions to be able to work in a way that provides harmony and have a sort of consolidated way to provide security for the users. Now, moving forward towards security consolidation can significantly enhance security posture and that is the idea of the cybersecurity mesh architecture. And you guys, if you have time, the information is publicly available. You can be able to go and just go on Google, Gartner website, and you can go through that. So the idea is to be able to enhance security posture and also improve the security operational efficiency, and that's the bottom line. And at the end of the day, the architecture will show me to be able to reduce the total cost of ownership. So again, at the end of the day, as much as we want to have the best security, we understand also cost will always be an issue, and also us in the IT side. So we're looking at a way to be able to provide effective security, improve significantly the operational efficiency of the solution that we're using, but also reduce the total cost of ownership. And this is what the Gartner cybersecurity mesh architecture is all about. And this is basically what we've used to build what we have on the Checkpoint side. Now, on the Checkpoint side, we believe a Checkpoint Infinity platform is the first modern consolidated security platform that basically is designed to provide and guard against modern day threats. We're looking at known threats, zero-day attacks that cuts across all your network, cloud, endpoints, and protects your entire infrastructure against sort of attack. And the model that we've used on the Checkpoint side basically is a mirror of what is seen on the Gartner mesh architecture. So Checkpoint Infinity provides a unified multi-layered approach to cybersecurity that protects across all attack surfaces on the network, cloud, endpoint, mobile, and also IoT devices. So IoT devices is big right now because again, that's I would say in terms of it used being as a bridge to attack any organization. The attack that targets IoT as a bridge probably has increased 100% in 2023 alone in the last 5 months. And the reason for that is we all love all these cool gadgets. So we're looking at smart printers, for example, smart TVs, companies in smart buildings, CCTV cameras. So all these tools, and we have them in our offices, and because they have IP addresses, it means they're able to communicate to the internet. Now, in most cases, as I've seen in most organizations that I've gone to, you'll find that stuff like smart TVs, for example, they're not even under network department. They are under what we call facilities department. When the network security guys are coming up with strategy to protect themselves against attacks on the network side, most of the times they don't even think about smart TVs. And these are on IoTs. Now, smart TVs, most of the time, if you look probably an Android TV or any smart TV, they will be running legacy OSs. And these legacy OSs are being exploited in the wild because, I mean, it doesn't matter how we get into a building, as long as I'm able to get inside the building. So they'll use this IoT as an entry point to the organization. And once they are inside the organization, then they're able to freely move through the organization through what we call a lateral infection. Again, it comes out to cybersecurity architecture. So you might have the best security on your perimeter, but do you have mechanisms in terms of architecture, security, your network architecture, security architecture, where you have some sort of logical compartmentalized network in that you're able to see also traffic that moves inside your network. And this is where things like NDR solution, for example, data center firewalls, be able to segment different sources within the organization between the LAN and the data center, for example. Some will call them inner skins firewalls, basically a firewall designed to look at what we call east-west traffic. Do you have all these solutions? If you go to your host, do you have all these solutions on the host side? Solutions that not only understand the host level sort of protection, but also understand network attacks that may target the host that is within the network. So again, these are solutions, you can look at them independently, to be able to provide some sort of an absolute security solution. But basically, IoT is something quite big. And I would say on the checkpoint side, we'll be able to embed this sort of capability into our mainstream solutions under the Infinity architecture. So going back to what I was mentioning, so Checkpoint Infinity provides protection across the entire organizations. So looking at the network, cloud. So cloud could be private cloud. So guys who have private cloud. So you're talking about maybe OpenStack, for example, Azure Stack. For guys who have adopted software-defined data centers like Cisco ACI, we do that. Guys who have moved some services to the cloud, public cloud, we are seeing this happening slowly but surely. So Microsoft Azure, AWS, GCP, we have a presence in there, and we have solutions that work in those segments. Endpoints cuts across the board. So Windows, iOS, Linux, you name them, mobile devices, Android, iOS, and also IoT. So the platform is designed where there's a sharing of intelligence, so sharing of the same threat prevention intelligence across all these solutions. And also this also projects two management services that we have for this solution, and also an overall threat intelligence that communicates with each other. So I talked before about a multifaceted attack, and this automated way of sharing threat intelligence is where we're able to provide this solution. So a unified cloud native security suite on the checkpoint side, we call it CloudGuard. Network and data center, we call it Checkpoint Quantum. And then user and access security, we call it Checkpoint Harmony. And this is what basically we have across the board. So we have CloudGuard for cloud products. So any solutions that work on the cloud. Harmony for users and access. Quantum for a perimeter, inner skin, and data center. And now we have the Harmony, the Infinity Vision that basically provides a platform that allows communication and management of all these solutions. So all these solutions they're point products, but the Infinity architecture provides a backend where these solutions you're able to have a universal policy across a specific attack vector across the board, where the policy on the back end can be applied across the board to prevent a specific sort of attack that you're able to see. The solution also under the Infinity architecture, you provide a way where you're able to see consolidated events that cuts across all this board. The platform allows you to also act on the events across the board at any given time. So this could be when it comes to, let's say, for example, remediation if required. And this is where the Infinity Vision comes in, where we have all these platforms that allows a communication across all these platforms on the back end through what we call the Infinity architecture. So any preemptive threats that comes in on the attack, we believe a prevention right now is the way to go, because we believe once the malware is in, it's already too late, and that's what we're trying to forge towards to. Now, so Checkpoint Infinity allows a consumption of services through an ELA or an enterprise license agreement that is simple and predictable business model. So one license for all, and that is only inclusive in terms of the subscription you're able to get. So tailor-made pricing, so it's quite flexible on how you want to use. So here you're able to meet the demand for any sort of security consolidation. So through a Checkpoint Infinity Enterprise License Agreement. So Checkpoint, for customers who wants to approach consolidation, then we're able to, first of all, to have a thorough security workshop that will lead to a security architecture, where we're now going to use, after we identify the security architecture and what needs to be done to fill in the gaps that you're able to see, then we're looking at the solutions and also services that will be part and parcel of what we identify during our security workshop as part of our security architecture and how we're going to fill those gaps. So we're looking at products, as you mentioned before, across cloud, network users, but also looking at services that can be used by the user. So some of these services could be, let's say, for example, incident response. For example, in case of an attack, then the same license will be able to cover you, where you'll be able to have the incident response team. So you're talking about guys in the red and purple teams within Checkpoint who basically will come into your network at a moment's notice and do any sort of compromise assessment, plug in any gaps, look at the network top down, looking at any platform that has been exploited, run a thorough investigation on that and give you a report. So these are basically guys who will be able to provide these sort of services if required. So basically on the back end, we'll have a support that works 24/7 to give you a way to manage the product. So we're looking at break fix scenario. For example, if you have an IPS on your network security solutions and you believe it is not working the way it's supposed to, then you believe probably it's a bug on the product or whatever, then you have a 24/7 support team that is able to come in. So looking at guys proficient in these specific technologies, they will come in and help you do what needs to be done. Now, we believe Checkpoint, again, this is not a Checkpoint mainstay, but again, this is information that was done by Forrester, done by Gartner, previously Genesis Labs, now it's called Cyber Rating, that we have, based on the Gartner cybersecurity mesh, we have portfolio solutions that cuts across all major attack vectors within the organization. So Checkpoint, we provide a solution that covers on the mobile side. We provide a solution that covers on networking side. We provide a solution that covers on the corporate email side. So email either on-premise or in the guys who have moved to the cloud, and those for collaboration applications, web servers and web applications, endpoint devices, and cloud. Now, having all these solutions and having a platform that enables us through Infinity platform to be able to provide a cybersecurity architecture that not only conforms to the architecture required based on being able to cover the possible attack surfaces in any typical organizations. As you can see, I would say probably 95-96% of all the companies that will require these solutions, but also have a technology platform that allows autonomous working of all these solutions together to provide security against any sort of modern attacks that we have across the board. So guys, this is what we have with architecture. I can see we have 10 minutes remaining. Probably there's a lot of questions on how the architecture works, what we're able to provide on the Checkpoint side. But again, for customers who have requirements on all these products, then they're able to consume all these products through the Infinity, Checkpoint Infinity approach and Infinity platform. Now, guys, also just to go back, all these solutions that we have on the Checkpoint side, I would say they in themselves, they are all industry leaders at what they do. So if you look at mobile security, network security, on the email side, web servers, we are basically leaders in all this that we do. Right? So it's not like just a patch or a compliant sort of solution that we put in there, but all solutions that Checkpoint provides to our customers across the board, they are basically leaders in that segment. And this way we believe not only do we able to give customers a way to have a cybersecurity architecture approach to their security, but also they're receiving the best of breed solutions across the industry in what we're able to offer. So Tawengwa, and I'll just skip these slides before probably move to some of the case studies we have with the customers. I would say, Tawengwa, probably this will be a good time to take any questions from anyone in the audience. Guys, feel free to ask any questions that you might have.
Yes, Dennis. We can take any questions. If say anyone has got a question, they can just pose your question on the chat box so that we can answer to that. I've got obviously in conversations with our customers, I've got a number of questions maybe that I can also pose whilst we are waiting for other questions to come through.
Okay.
Okay. The first question is the XDR technology similar to the cybersecurity architecture?
That's a very good question, Tawengwa. We looked at a way we say we're able to automate protections, automate remediation actions that we have across the board. Now, an XDR solution, by definition, an extended detection and response, provides a platform where the customers are able to ingest data from multiple products, right? These products will be sitting in different attack surfaces within the organizations. So a product could be either on the network security side, a data center side, endpoint side, mobile side, email side, cloud side. So all these raw logs are ingested on the XDR platform. The XDR platform, through specific security algorithm, is able to ingest this AI and project to the customer a security logic based on the logs that are being ingested. So once the security logic is defined and projected to the customer, the solution has tools to either manually or automatically act on security threats that have been identified by the events that have been displayed based on the raw logs that have been ingested. So an XDR is a key factor or a key variable when it comes to being able to have a cybersecurity architecture that is not only autonomous, but a security architecture that is able to react autonomously to any sort of attacks that cast across the board. So we talked about having disparate solutions across the board that relies on the user or the cybersecurity team to be able to act on them, and we're only human, and we don't work all the time. But the XDR platform allows us to be able to have the sort of automation and orchestration of security tools and events, and basically I would say it's one of the main core of having a proper cybersecurity architecture that cuts across all the products to be able to provide security for the users. So an XDR, I would say probably it's an equalizer, because then it means the customer can have multiple products. And now what I'm seeing in the market, also the checkpoint side, XDR platforms are able to ingest data. So basically they are vendor agnostics. Yeah, so they are vendor agnostic. It doesn't matter where the data is coming from, that you're able to ingest data from anyone and basically derive the value from that. So Tawengo, I don't know, have I answered your question?
Oh, okay, yeah. Thank you so much. I've got another question here on the chat. How does Sophos file compare to other files listed?
Okay, so that's a very difficult question, but I would say don't take my word for it. So we have again, probably, so I work for Checkpoint. I might be prejudiced in what I say, but we have third-party independent testing companies. Some are based on customer feedback. Some are on basically actual testing. So they will request gear from all these vendors, and they will do proactive testing. So looking companies like ProComm, for example, Cyber Rating, for example, they do actual testing, and based on the testing, they provide results based on some of the tests they did. So one of them is on stability, for example. Some of them is on rigorous attacks. Some on specific attacks, or maybe on HTTP, HTTPS, phishing attacks. So they do all these sort of tests, and they provide results based on that. Now, on my slide 13, I would say I picked the vendors that I would say, based by Gartner and all these other guys, they're seen as leaders, and I guess it will be good to compare ourselves with all these vendors that we have across the board. I don't know if I've answered the question.
Okay. Thanks, Dennis. I've also, Mr. Chabota, I've allowed you on the mic. If you want to raise your question, please, you can go ahead.
I see the question has been posted on chat as well.
Yeah, I see that as well. Same solution provided next year. So that's a very good question, Chabota, because I would say an XDR is a SIEM on steroids, because a SIEM will ingest data from multiple sources, but it only project to you, right? So it will tell you this has happened. So probably if you have a SOC team or you have an IT team, it's up to you to deduce what you have seen on the SIEM side, and then you need to act or not what you have seen on that regard. Now, an XDR, not only is it able to ingest data from different sources, but also provides tools to be able to act on the specific attacks. So from a security perspective, I would say an XDR is more relevant, because again, you need to have a way to be able to react faster, right? So any breach that comes to you, the speed of reaction it's quite key, and I think an XDR gives you that. In some XDRs, actually, you can even automate some sort of remediation steps required. So probably if an attack comes to you at night, the XDR probably will maybe quarantine a machine, for example, block a port if required, maybe quarantine an email, but a SIEM won't give you that. So we'll go tomorrow from a security perspective. A SIEM will tell you then there was a breach last night on this machine, but the machine will still be online, so you won't have other tools. So I've seen again in the market there's some tools trying to basically adopt these solutions, so they become more to work like XDR platform. But I would say the two have different use cases. But in this day and age, from a security perspective, I would say an XDR is more relevant. By the mere fact it has those tools where you're able to react to attacks in much quicker way, and in some cases also automatically react to the attacks that we're able to see.
Okay, thanks, Dennis, for that answer. You've just left with about 1 minute. Or my last question. There's still obviously resistance from customers in terms of looking at security consolidation, because the industry has been mainly dominated by best of breed security, which obviously means customers have been looking at getting the best security product for the challenge they have. How can customers obviously transition from such a strategy, obviously, to look now into security consolidation?
So again, Tawengo, as I said before, so the three main reasons of cybersecurity architecture, first of all, is security effectiveness, operational efficiency, and overall to be able to have a lowered TCO, or total cost of ownership. Now, if you look at security effectiveness, with a pinpoint best-of-breed solutions across the board. That's okay. On paper, that is fine. But again, operationally, that will also basically extrapolate to security, because your solution is as good as the way it's managed. Now, the problem becomes where you have a nightmare when it comes to operations. So you have all these best-of-breed solutions across the board. You have 2 or 3 guys in your IT side, so they need to manage all these solutions across the board. They need to be trained to manage them better. So again, the guy also needs to be very, very well skilled, so that they're able to, if they see an attack on the email side, so they need to understand what does that mean on the email, on the phishing side. What does that mean on the endpoint? What does that mean on the mobile? So if we leave this sort of investigation to the user, then we are prone to error sometimes, and this will lead to a security lapse, which again will lead to a security ineffectiveness. So having this pinpoint solution is good. I have no problems with that. But again, in a way, it becomes counterproductive, because then from an operational side, it becomes a nightmare for the users. And this nightmare, again, will basically lead to a security ineffectiveness, because on how they're able to be managed. And this is where the cybersecurity architecture comes in. So having pinpoint solution is not a proper cybersecurity architecture, because again, you're looking at disparate solutions working independently. So they're not part of a framework to basically look at an end to what we're trying to achieve. So with that, then without a backward platform, from a technology perspective, then they cannot be seen as an architecture in its own self, but basically patches to specific problems. And I would say in this day and age, and the sophistication of malware that we have currently, they become quite ineffective. Tawengwa, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you so much, Dennis, for the presentation. This has actually been very insightful. There's obviously a lot to learn. We always say that obviously security consolidation is part of a strategy for your security program. So we are obviously available to engage for those that are actually interested in knowing more or further engagements on how they can obviously look at security consolidation by looking at the security architectures in their environments. Please reach out to ProComm, to your account managers for further engagements. We are actually able to bring in Checkpoint into those engagements for discussions that obviously can help in terms of mapping strategies on how you can actually improve the security posture of your organizations. And I would also like to take this time to thank everyone for joining this webinar. And thanks, Dennis, for the presentation, and Letitia for moderating this webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.